If your grocery bill feels too high, you're not imagining it. Tonight, why prices remain elevated and the expert tips that can help protect your wallet. Early retirement is possible, but only if you know your numbers. Next, the savings rule experts use and the trade-offs that come with leaving work early. Plus, rideshare and delivery drivers now have a chance to save big bucks at the pump. We're going to show you how to combine offers to save the max possible. Welcome to the Watchdog, where we protect consumers, share warnings and alerts, and help save you money. I'm Jen Pachano. Let's begin with a Cleveland woman who's been arrested for her role in preparing and filing false federal income tax returns on behalf of her clients. According to the Department of Justice, 46-year-old Sharita Booker is accused of preparing false and fraudulent income tax returns. Agents discovered that when Booker prepared tax returns for clients, she would allegedly attach fraudulent Schedule C documents, which are used to indicate business profit and losses to clients' Form 1040 when they did not own any businesses. The DOJ said Booker would also employ other schemes to avoid tax due and owing to the IRS by her clients. Booker now faces up to 3 years in prison if she's convicted. There's an influx of scammers really active right now, taking advantage of AI technology to make tax scams hyper-focused, customized, and believable. Catherine Cruz with Verizon says they're seeing a spike in text messages with malicious links, up more than 300% since 2020. Now, scammers are also luring targets using voice cloning, with as little as 30 seconds of video needed to create a cloned profile of your voice. It's usually pulled from a social media clip.
The Latino and Black community are affected almost twice as much as the general population. I would say that seniors are also being targeted, mostly with the voice scams, not so much the links, because I think seniors are a little bit more cautious with hitting links now. But the voice scams are really, like, the confidence scams are really what's on the rise, and that's because people want to believe the person on the phone is their friend or their family member that they can help.
Now, to avoid falling for a voice cloning scam, experts suggest selecting a family password and use that to confirm that you're dealing with an actual family member or friend and not a bad actor. American Airlines joined Delta, Southwest, United, Alaska Airlines, and JetBlue in hiking baggage fees. Most of these airlines are raising the price on the first and second checked bag by $10. The companies say it's due to rising jet fuel costs linked to the Iran war. Now, as airlines jack up baggage fees in response to these jet fuel shortages, a new report out of Europe warns these fuel crunch that we're experiencing right now could interrupt summer travel. Well, Uber and Lyft are offering their rideshare and delivery drivers an incentive on their fuel. They're expanding the fuel discounts through May 26th via Upside and the Shell Fuel Rewards apps. So drivers and couriers, you can now get up to $1 off per gallon of gas with Upside. You can also now get up to 21 cents off per gallon of gas with Shell Fuel Rewards. This is all based on your tier. Now, those offers can be combined with the Uber Pro card, netting even more savings. So altogether, top-tier drivers and couriers, you can save up to $1.44 a gallon when you fill up your tank using these combined offers and additional discounts. Well, for a lot of families, grocery prices still putting a lot of pressure on your budget. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Carice Jackman talks with a food economist about why food prices remain elevated even as inflation has slowed and what shoppers can do to save money.
At the National Food Policy Conference in Washington, D.C., food economist and Michigan State professor David Ortega said food inflation has been a major concern for consumers for years.
This is an issue that has been top of mind for American consumers over the past 5 or 6 years.
USDA data shows food prices surged in 2022, then slowed in 2023 and 2024.
Inflation is the rate of change in prices over a period of time, so how quickly prices are rising. And what we saw is that over the past 5-6 years, especially in 2022, we saw the fastest growth in that price level, almost 11-12% year over year.
But Ortega says slower inflation does not mean food prices are falling.
It just means that they're not increasing as quickly.
Ortega says the conflict in Iran and disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz could push food costs higher by driving up oil prices. But he says that kind of pressure does not hit the food system all at once. Transportation costs can be one of the earliest pressure points, even though they are only one part of the total cost of food. For shoppers, though, the more immediate question is how to manage high prices right now.
What should I know as a consumer when it comes to food inflation and how I can protect my wallet?
If you're looking to keep your grocery bill in check, it's going to pay off to shop around. There's a lot of grocery retailers that are offering promotions to be able to compete for your dollars and to draw you into their stores, so definitely shop around.
Ortega also recommends looking at private label or store brands, checking your pantry before you shop, planning meals ahead of time, and sticking to a list to help limit impulse buys. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Ortega added one of the biggest wild cards for food prices right now is uncertainty, especially around trade policy. He says that makes it harder to predict how much relief shoppers may see ahead. Now, for a lot of people, early retirement, it's the dream, right? In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa now finds out why it can be an ambitious financial goal, but also achievable with the right plan.
There's new money on the table for your retirement, and you need to know the rules to take advantage of it. For starters, the amount of money you can contribute to your 401k plans in 2026 has increased. It's now up to $24,500. That's $1,000 more than last year. This again is for anyone who uses a 401k, 403b, governmental 457 plans, and the federal government's thrift savings plan. Michael Joyce with CW Advisors says the catch-up contribution limit for people 50 and over who also participate in these plans has increased to $8,000, up from $7,500 for 2025.
And there's actually, for people aged 60 to 63, there's now something called a super catch-up. So you can put in an extra $11,250.
Joyce says there's one more big change to know about, which can be a little confusing for people.
Starting this year, if you made over $145,000 in FICA income last year, you now have to make your catch-up contributions in a Roth 401k. So you can't do it with pre-tax dollars. You have to do it with after-tax dollars.
Joyce says if your employer doesn't offer Roth options, a Roth IRA could be your next best option. If this does sound confusing, you can always talk to a financial advisor anytime to see how this applies to your life or your parents' life. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Coming up on the Watchdog, it's our Ask the Scam Squad segment. I brought in the FBI today to talk about a local bank employee who was accused of taking advantage of elderly customers. Welcome back to the Watchdog. On each episode, we introduce you to a member of the Cuyahoga County Scam Squad. They come to share with us real stories of victims and scams happening right here in our backyard. And on today's show, we are bringing in FBI Special Agent Pat Koeth to talk about a case of someone with a consumer protection position at a bank taking advantage of elderly customers.
He was an analytics guy, and his job was basically to come up with different algorithms and things to find the very frauds that he was perpetrating. So when you think of
plot twist.
Yeah, right. So when you think of getting an alert on your phone from your bank saying, hey, this is out of the ordinary, you know, is this something that you actually purchased? That was his job behind the scenes, was to come up with those types of algorithms to find frauds to alert victims.
So he was kind of a double agent here.
You could say so. It's definitely a different one for us because we see people all the time trying to impersonate bank employees to defraud people. But
he actually was.
In this instance, he actually was one.
Yeah, and this was a key bank employee, correct?
Yes, at the time he was a key bank employee.
Okay, so what was he doing exactly, and how many victims are we talking about that we know of?
So we don't know the complete set of victims. It's a larger number than obviously what we charged him with.
Okay.
But it was many.
Yeah.
And what he typically did, or what he did in this instance, was he would go in and he would look for elderly key bank customers.
Okay.
Ones where they're so old they likely are not computer savvy, and then he himself would sign them up for online banking. So he had access to their account information, and he basically made the decision that they're likely too old to even realize that they have online banking set up without their knowledge. So he would set up online banking just like you and I would do with our normal accounts, except he would route all of the emails and everything like that to himself, so that the fraud, or the victim, I should say, would never be alerted that all these things were happening with their accounts. So he would tie their accounts to the online banking, and then he basically funneled their money out of their accounts to accounts that he controlled.
Incredible. So how much money was he charged with stealing? Do you know, like an idea?
That one, I want to say it was a couple $1 million. It might have been around $3 million for what we actually charged him with. So there were multiple more victims that followed the same kind of pattern that for one reason or another, because of the technology involved. Remember, he's an analytics guy. He's very smart.
Yeah.
He covered his tracks very, very well. Not well enough, but he covered his tracks very well. So there were other victims that looked like it followed the same pattern, or he attempted to victimize but never got around to doing it before he was caught.
So how did he get caught?
So funny you should ask that. KeyBank actually was the one that alerted us of these suspicious transactions that were happening with their customers. So basically what had happened was he tried linking several of the KeyBank accounts to online brokerage accounts. So
He's trying to grow that money he had stolen.
Yeah, exactly. So he's trying to invest it in the market.
Yeah.
And much like you're trying to link a different account from outside of your bank, they'll send small transactions back and forth. We call them microtransactions.
They're like canaries in the coal mine a little bit.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
So you do it just to make sure, right?
Yeah.
To verify that it's safe.
Right.
Exactly. Canary in the coal mine. So they were doing these microtransactions, and KeyBank's own system picked up on the fact that, well, these accounts that you're trying to link have no bearing with the actual customer. They're in a different name. What is the reason that these two accounts are being linked together? And then they started looking into it, and they realized something nefarious was going on. So they launched their own internal investigation, eventually coming to the point where they needed the FBI to get involved, which we did, obviously.
So that was good that there were some layers of check and balance, if you will, that sounded the alarms from them, although it went on long enough.
Yes.
But they did eventually find it. So what are some of the red flags that were happening in this particular case, and what should people be looking out for? I mean, this is a pretty rare case, I'm assuming. Nonetheless, maybe other things like this are happening.
It is. So again, what we primarily see when it comes to these types of frauds are we'll see people impersonating the banks, like I had said previously.
Yeah.
So again, I tell everyone, anytime someone calls you and you think it's from, a financial institution,
they're not going to call you, right?
Well, we might, but again, we'll take steps to verify who we are.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, look up the number yourself and call them back.
Yeah.
Because the scammers obviously can manipulate the number to make it look like it's coming from a KeyBank or from an FBI or from a sheriff's office. But if you call that number back, it's not going to go back to the scammer. So they can manipulate the incoming to you, but they can't link it back to them.
Right, they can't.
So
do
that's
that.
always the thing. So it's always, hey, call them back at their number. In this case, the big thing is if you're involved in online banking, or even if you're not, but you have a grandmother or an elderly relative or friend, make sure that they're keeping track of their banking.
Right.
Right. Checking their statements.
Someone is.
Someone is. Right. Because this would have been caught in sooner had they even been looking at their paper statements.
Right.
But again, they're elderly.
Yeah.
And no one was looking out for them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, if you know that you have someone in your life that is elderly who might not be able to stay savvy with, the computer stuff, then, hey, look at their paper statements. We say the same thing for healthcare benefits.
Right, exactly.
Right? So we
Keep
see it all the
tabs
time
on
with
it.
Medicare. Yeah, look at your EOBs. But same thing, look at your banking statements and take invested interests in that. We're big fans of online banking. We're big fans of online banking alerts. Just make sure that those accounts are actually tied to you and not an employee of the actual financial institution.
And finally, tell me, if somebody does suspect that they may have something going on, like this, or even totally unrelated, but hey, I've got something I think needs to be checked out, what's the website or the phone number they need to call with the FBI?
Right. So, yeah, obviously, hey, if it's something immediate, we always say call the local police department.
Sure.
Obviously, if this is something like this, hey, call your local bank as well. For us, FBItips.gov is a great one for us. IC3, which we'll probably talk about later, the Internet Crime Complaint Center, that is our central repository for all complaints that touch the internet. It's not the black hole that people think it is when it comes to government bureaucracy. Everything that happens here in Northern Ohio when it comes to types of financial crimes, that comes to me directly.
Thinking about renovating instead of relocating? Some home upgrades, they pay off, others not so much. We're going to tell you what's worth your money as costs climb. With mortgage rates climbing again, many homeowners are choosing to stay put and renovate instead of selling. But as the cost of materials rises, not every upgrade is worth it. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger breaks down which projects deliver the biggest return and where you may be overpaying.
As mortgage rates rise, forget house hunting. This year, time may be better spent on renovating. But if you're planning a project, be aware. Tariffs are pushing up the cost of home improvements. According to the Journal of Light Construction, projects that tend to deliver the best return when it's time to sell include replacing a garage door or front door, installing new siding, and adding a backup generator. If you're thinking about a kitchen upgrade, smaller may be smarter. A minor remodel can recoup most of your investment, while a mid-range renovation returns about half. And a high-end overhaul pays back just a third at resale. Finally, if your home has just one bathroom, experts say your money may go further by adding a second bath rather than upgrading the existing one. And for those planning to age in place, consider skipping the tub in favor of a larger walk-in shower. In New York, I'm CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
It's time for our recall roundup, starting with these stainless steel sauté pans sold at Costco, Walmart, and Amazon. You see the metal cap on the screw that connects the sauté pan to the handle, that can become detached and forcefully eject when heated. Now, the company knows of at least 98 incidents of that detachment, including one report where the consumer got bruising and burn injuries. So if you've got one of these in your kitchen, stop using it and contact the manufacturer. That's E-Mission for a full refund. Graco has announced a voluntary recall for a product that was recently introduced to the market this year. A limited number of Snug Ride turn and slide products that were sold in the U.S. From January of this year through March of this year on places like Amazon, Babylist, Target, Walmart, and GracoBaby.com. They're all part of this recall. Graco says the products have a structural issue that they ID'd during a post-production laboratory test. And Sam's Club is recalling about 18,000 Valentine's-themed pajama sets. Now, these recalled sets violate the mandatory standards for flammability that's out there for children's sleepwear. It poses a risk for kids to get burned here. The sets consist of a short and short sleeve button-up top that's got a front pocket. It was sold in various colors and prints. Now, thankfully, no injuries have been reported so far. Consumers should immediately return them for a full refund. Well, that's it for this episode of the Watchdog here on 19 News. Every week, we're going to bring you the latest scam alerts, fraud reports, recalls, and trending consumer news each Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. If you want to watch previous Scam Squad stories, you can find them on Cleveland19.com. It's all under the News tab. I'm Jen Pachano. Thank you for watching.